Novak Djokovic and Nick Kyrgios are known to be longtime rivals, and it's definitely an interesting thing to see, especially since both are considered to be some of the best tennis players right now. Despite everything, though, it looks like these two are finally starting to put aside their differences. In this video, we'll be taking a look at Novak Djokovic and Nick Kyrgios ending their rivalry in Australia, so stay tuned. First off, Novak Djokovic offered a warm-up match to Nick Kyrgios. Novak Djokovic and Nick Kyrgios are in the middle of a budding bromance, and just prior to this month's Australian Open, Serbian tennis great Novak Djokovic made an offer to Nick Kyrgios. They grew close last year, and now Djokovic has offered to play a warm-up match for the Australian to help him get back in shape. Now, due to injuries, Kyrgios had to withdraw from the United Cup team competition at the last minute. Plus, he also skipped the Adelaide International, and this left him unprepared for the Australian Open, which begins on January 16th. What's more, The Age and the Herald were informed by Kyrgios manager Daniel Horsfall that they intend to depart from Canberra for Melbourne on Thursday before the Grand Slam. The thing is, throughout their careers, Kyrgios and Djokovic haven't always agreed, but beginning at the Australian Open the previous year, their friendship has bloomed recently. You see, Kyrgios was one of the few people who spoke out in support of Djokovic when he was deported on the eve of last year's event because of his anti-vaccination stance during the COVID-19 crisis. Since then, several events have led them to getting closer and closer, and if things go on like this, the two just might end up being best friends by the time 2024 comes around. Following up, what Daniel Horsfall had to say about Nick's return. Daniel, who's Kyrgios' manager, stated that despite everything that happened, the 22-year-old was working hard and making good progress as a result. So all in all, there's no doubt that he'll compete in the Open. After all, it's the opening Grand Slam event of the year, and missing out on it isn't a good idea. Horsfall added that both he and the tennis player were extremely eager for the event and had been training non-stop just to make sure that they'll be able to catch it. Now, many people were disappointed when he withdrew from the United Cup, but thankfully have since come to understand that the injury was a serious issue and that the player needed to be careful to avoid it getting worse. The proper care put into recovering might as well be the only reason the tennis star will be able to compete in the Open. Still, criticism was a constant, and Daniel did wish more people would inquire before offering their opinions. Now 4. Nick and Novak's match sells out within minutes. The Kooyong Classic, the organizers of the Melbourne exhibition event, have given Kyrgios a spot in their competition, and Djokovic may also be able to provide the Australian with a warm-up match. At his home Grand Slam, Kyrgios will compete in both the singles and doubles events. Plus, at Melbourne Park, Kyrgios and Thanasi Kokkinakis, an all-Australian doubles team, will try to defend the championship they earned at the 2017 Grand Slam. According to Nick, one of his favorite times of the year to play is during the Australian summer. The Australian has also suggested that he wants to compete in a doubles competition later this year with Djokovic. As for the warm-up match, fans absolutely love the idea, and maybe that's putting it lightly, considering the fact that Melbourne sold out in 58 minutes on Friday. Oh my goodness, Nick Kyrgios is horrible for sports. What a shame and a national disgrace. Nick was referring to Melbourne being sold out in less than an hour and taking a dig at all of his haters when he tweeted this. He continued to mock them, stating that it was extremely arrogant of him to sell out yet another stadium. Well, it definitely was an impressive feat. The cost of admission to the game on the 14,828-seat court in Rod Laver Arena was $20 Australian, and the proceeds all went to the Australian Tennis Foundation. Coming up, Nick and Novak had an extremely tense relationship. With his on-court tantrums and antics, which are frequently showcased alongside his immense natural talent and eye-catching trick shots, Kyrgios has long caused controversy. His Netflix documentary, Breakpoint, where he discusses a chaotic era in his career, is set to premiere on the same day as his upcoming match. In the past, Kyrgios and Djokovic's relationship was tense. In 2021, the Australian called the 21-time Grand Slam champion a tool and a weird cat. So it's understandable that Novak was just as shocked to hear the praise he had for his rival. He stated that he had never imagined he'd ever compliment him, but now that everything was settled, they were finally starting their bromance. Djokovic just won the Adelaide International Championship and will compete in the Australian Open the following week, a year after his deportation. As for Nick, after an outstanding 2022 season that saw him make his first Grand Slam singles final, he'll be trying to retain his Australian Open doubles championship with Thanasi Kokkinakis in his first match since suffering an ankle injury in October. Finally, has Novak and Nick's newfound friendship started? Nick and Novak have been longtime rivals, but just recently Nick extended his hand to Novak in hopes of playing doubles together at the Indian Wells Open if the Serb is permitted into the United States. This was what started this new bromance between the two tennis legends. Nick also stood up for Novak after he was deported from Australia on the eve of the first Grand Slam of the season. The 35-year-old was deported from Melbourne due to his vaccination status, with Nick among the people taking a public stand against his own country, something that Novak is still grateful for. This definitely certainly meant a lot to Novak, and he was sure to express it. Of course, the fact that the defense was coming from a longtime rival must have been a bit shocking, but still quite welcome. Not to mention the later Wimbledon final where it all started, with the 21-time major champion labeling their relationship as a bromance at the All England Club. Novak took his 7th crown at the venue after defeating Nick in 4 sets. And even though the two haven't always seen eye to eye, it's safe to say that the stormy days of their relationship are behind them. And also, who knows? Maybe the two will become much closer than any one of us could have ever thought. We'll just have to wait and see how things go from here. Moving on, Kyrgios' manager hitting out after the latest withdrawal before the Australian Open. First up, Daniel Horsfall blasts Nick Kyrgios critics. Nick Kyrgios' manager, Daniel Horsfall, has criticized the people who found fault with him for withdrawing from the Adelaide International. Nick was blasted for pulling out of the United Cup last minute before he revealed that he had an ankle injury he wanted to recover from before the Australian Open. It was disclosed that he wouldn't be playing in the Adelaide International either, which meant that he'll enter the Australian Open without playing a lead-up match. Nick played in exhibition events in Saudi Arabia and Dubai in December, but he hasn't participated in a competitive match since the ATP event in Tokyo in October last year. The organizer of Adelaide International confirmed that Nick Kyrgios wouldn't be competing in Week 2 of the tournament and that both the event and fans are disappointed in the situation. But injuries do happen, and health is the most important thing. So they wished him good luck and a speedy recovery, saying that they understood the importance of preparing for the Australian Open and would welcome him back to Adelaide International anytime. Next up, Daniel says the decision was made after consultation with a physiotherapist. While talking with The Age, the Aussie Star's manager said that they came to a decision after discussing the matter with Will Mayer, who's Nick's physiotherapist, though he added that Nick will without a doubt recover in time to play the Australian Open starting on January 16th. He continued that they were very excited and working every day to ensure that they were ready for the Australian Open. Plus, he also addressed the people who'd been upset with Nick for withdrawing from the United Cup, saying that he hoped they now understood the injury's genuineness and wished more people would ask questions before giving their own opinions on the matter. Earlier, Nick told the Sydney Morning Herald that anyone who played professionally was aware of what it really took to be ready for the Grand Slam. He said that anyone outside of that wouldn't really have a good understanding of it. What's more, the player said that going deep or not, it isn't an easy thing to win a Grand Slam. People underestimate the nerves and pressure that come with being a part of one of the largest tournaments of the year. Nick then went on to say that if you throw an injury, you're not giving yourself the best chance, and it adds to the already high amount of pressure you're facing. He added that feeling good physically is very important. Lastly, Lleyton Hewitt hits out at Nick due to a lack of communication. Lleyton Hewitt, the Australian United Cup captain, recently criticized Nick for his lack of communication when pulling out from the event. He complained that Nick's decision was revealed only 10 minutes before they had a press conference in Sydney. Later on, Nick accused Lleyton of throwing him under the bus and raised the question if co-captain Sam Stosur would do the same towards Aya Tomljanovic after he withdrew because of an injury. Due to his lack of competitive match practice, Novak Djokovic is now set to play a practice match with Nick, while the Kooyong Classic has also offered him a spot at their event. Also, as we've mentioned earlier, he's also scheduled to play doubles alongside Thanasi Kokkinakis at the Australian Open, with them aiming to defend the title they won in extraordinary scenes in 2022. And while talking to reporters, Thanasi said that they're still playing in the Australian Open, as doubles are a lot less taxing physically, and it's also a bit easier mentally. That's a wrap for this video. What do you think about Novak Djokovic's and Nick Kyrgios' new friendship? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this, and we'll see you in the next one.